We're going to be bringing back the Diablo show. I'll give you a quick intro to what the Diablo show is, considering this will be the first episode. As you can see, I've got this episode here. It's privated. It's long been privated, and this came out in 2013. I started my YouTube channel doing a Diablo commentary show, and we're bringing it back. So let me give you a heads up about the schedule of what we're doing today. We're going to be going over Diablo 4 gameplay. A couple of people got access to the press release version of Diablo 4. We're going to be watching it, going to get some cool takes. Also, the quarterly Diablo 4 update. That's going to be very exciting. We've got details about the Battle Pass. I'm going to be telling you guys how long the open beta is going to be going for, the minimum and the maximum amount of time. And then at the end, I think we're going to do a breakdown of the Diablo 4 cinematic release regarding the lore, an in-depth breakdown on what's going on with that. So that's the schedule. All right, so we've got 3 videos that we're going to jump into straight away. So these came out about 2 or 3 days ago, kind of a little bit old news, but I'm keen. I'm keen to check it out. I have not watched any of it. I'll just walk you through the 3 videos that we're going to go through. So Force Strategy Gaming, I actually got into YouTube because of Force and a few other content creators. I remember when Diablo 3 very first came out in like 2013, Force was the dude. I got a lot of respect for him, and I really value his opinion. Diablo 4 is very fun, gameplay, open world, dungeons, and bosses. Come on, Dennis, what you got for me, dude? It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years, my friend.
This past week, we got the chance to play an early build of Diablo 4, and after spending a bunch of time with the game, I'm happy to say it's looking pretty darn good. The build we had access to was limited. We were able to play through the prologue as well as all of Fractured Peaks, which is the first of the game's 5 open worlds.
I think the press release was up to level 25.
Zones. This included the full story campaign and cinematics, as well as side quest events and activities within
Full story campaign.
that zone. We also could play 3 out of the 5 classes, choosing from the Rogue, Sorcerer, and Barbarian, which we could level to a maximum of 25 out of the game's 100 total character level. A lot to do, and I just wanted to keep on playing. And we, in fact, did just that. We played the game a ton, just about every day. We saw everything that this early build had to offer, scouring the entirety of the play space, going into every dungeon, doing every activity, participating in every event.
If Blizzard Entertainment sends you a press release of a video game, you play the hell out of it. You play the hell out of it.
Fortunately, we couldn't capture our own footage because this is an early build. It's still got the watermark plastered all over it. But we do at least have a bunch of new gameplay B-roll that we can show you, and I am able to fully talk about my experience, my playtime, what I saw, and what I thought. So let's go ahead and do just that. So starting things off, we can make our own character, of course. I chose the Barbarian out of the 3 available classes. I also play.
Okay, awesome. So let's have a look here. So we got skin tone, so full character customization to an extent. Markings, body tattoos. It still wigs me out that there's a character customization system in Diablo 4. It's an odd concept. It exists in every single video game ever that comes out today that's an MMO. I'd personally prefer just having a preset character, which is odd because you have more access to customize your own character. But hey, you know, times are changing, video games are changing.
Honestly good enough for me, especially since I never even see any of this stuff playing in a top-down game, so it doesn't bother me all that much. Diablo 4 is just a full-on open-world game with much of the open-world RPG trappings that you expect. I would say even just this first zone that we had was very large. It consisted of various open spaces with interconnected.
I'm totally down for a very large world in Diablo 4. In any action RPG ever besides Diablo 4, I would not be down for it. Right, I've been playing a lot of Titan Quest lately, and I'm like, man, I just want to finish the game. 8-hour acts, and it's like, God damn. Diablo 4 is a different beast. It's a different beast of action RPG. The more, the better.
Tough to see. As you're going around, you'll of course come across groups of enemies, normal and elite varieties. There were demons, fallen, different skeletons, vampires, werewolves, spiders.
The most efficient way to farm high runes in Diablo 2 is to do this Act 3 run where you go through and just open up super chests.
Often. Of the 23 dungeons that we went through, I would say, we didn't get an exact count, but I want to say there's somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 12 bosses, and a few of those repeated, and a few of the dungeons just didn't have bosses. I was surprised to see repeated bosses at the end of dungeons. I guess because there are over 100 dungeons in the game, maybe it's too much to expect a unique boss.
Way too many art assets.
Ones that have boss fights, but it wasn't the case. We fought the exact same boss type in multiple different dungeon locations. You should just know that's something that happens.
The thing, dude, here's the one that's going to tip me with Diablo 4. I want Diablo 4 to be as far away from an MMO as possible. I like the ammo experience. I think that's great. The more they introduce MMO elements, the further I feel connected to the video game. I'm thinking about it from a perspective of, 2 or 3 years from now, is it going to be like World of Warcraft? If I wanted to play WoW, I'd play WoW. Diablo's a totally different experience, way more arcadey.
And then there was the actual world boss. Now, there was one world boss in this
Here we go.
played, and he was located on the far eastern side of the zone. So the boss's name was Ashava the Pestilent. 5 minutes prior to spawning in, we noticed a countdown timer that went up on the map. And then going to the area, what we saw...
This is that MMO stuff, dude. This is that MMO stuff that I'm not a fan of. These world events. It's not fair because I haven't played it yet in Diablo 4 to really give my opinion on it.
Was this like giant spawning pool. It was a big gaping hole with fleshy bits and teeth and a pool of liquid in the middle. After the 5 minutes counted down, he summoned up out of the pool. It's like this massive bird-like monstrosity. We've actually seen this in some of the early footage of boss fights.
It's like a bird without
4. He's got a
feathers.
beak, lots of spikes, and these 2 large, long talons. And he had a few abilities from what we saw. For one, he would jam his talon into the ground and then swoop it in a big arc. This turned out to one-shot us if we got hit by any part of it, so we figured, okay, let's just go up and fight him up close. However, as you try to walk towards him, he will leap away from the group, forcing you to run closer, otherwise you'll get hit with that big talon one-shot swipe. But once you do that, he's got a forward lunge, which he will bite with his beak, which also happened to one-shot us. He would smash his arm directly underneath him, dealing damage.
I'm going to be playing Diablo 4 in softcore for the first release of the game, just because the amount of disconnects, servers are going to be crappy at launch. But season 1, I will be playing hardcore from the get-go. All this talk about one-shot, kind of exciting and intimidating at the same time. It's definitely going to cull the week. I just got a crazy idea. Imagine if in the hardcore mode in Diablo 4, if someone died, you could loot their gear. I really, really like his opinion on this because, Force has done a heap of Diablo content, but over the years, more and more so, he's an MMO guy, right? He does MMOs, and it's cool to hear his opinion coming from an MMO dude playing Diablo.
By spending points, you unlock access to lower tiers, and you move your way down through these different clumps of abilities. So you start off with basic abilities, which for me, that was my resource generator. And then in the second tier, you get your core abilities, which are your major damage dealing resource spenders. Tier 3.
Dude, I can't handle, man. I can't handle. We've wanted complexity in Diablo games for years now. For years. The one thing that Diablo games have always fell short on is complexity in the builds. Diablo 2 nailed it with the rune word system. Diablo 3 babysit handheld you. New season, guys. Here's the one way you can play the game. This is what I'm talking about. This is going to keep me playing for years. Dude, it's going to be super touch and go. If they can pull off the loot in Diablo 4, it'll be extraordinary because in Diablo 3, they had these just crappy items. He even admitted that the legendaries were terrible. They were terrible. Let me give you an example. There were a pair of boots. It's been a long time, but they're called like the blazing something. When you walk, it leaves a fire trail behind you. They weren't even good at that level. The damage did not scale. It was a visual gimmick. The more complex the itemization is, the easier it is for players to be able to break the game. And breaking the game is kind of the end game fantasy of Diablo, right? The casual player, the average person wants to go through the storyline, finish the game. All the people that want to play Diablo long term, they want to create some crazy build and be like, hey, I don't know about you, but have you seen my build? That's why I like Force, because he kind of has that stand backish approach. All right, Dabrensky, the GOAT, the Diablo 2 streamer GOAT, him and Llama. No one does it better than these guys. Diablo 4 beta review. I can finally talk about it. By the way, subscribe to Dabrensky. Definitely check him out. Dabrensky125. Oh, I should move the camera too, because I think his body, he's kind of sitting on the left.
Diablo 2 fans, Dabrensky here. In today's video,
Dabrensky. Hello, mate. Hello. Hello.
Talk about my initial impressions from playing a version of the Diablo 4 beta. So I do want to talk about the pros and cons, in my opinion, of the beta for testing the atmosphere, visuals, how item and progression feels. So in terms of the game's atmosphere, I really think that they nailed it, and I have next to no complaints. There's absolutely a stark difference, in my opinion, from this Diablo 4 beta to Diablo 3. It's much more in line, I think, with the Diablo 2/Diablo 1 feel. The color palette.
Show me a man who disagrees with the Diablo 4 art style. Show me that man.
Palette is a lot more muted. The gameplay is slower. Like the audio from the environmental effects and the monster combat, it just feels great. It's like dark gothic feel, largely sort of personal preference. But one thing that I definitely did notice is the pace of the combat, at least early on, and the skill animations are very slower paced and much more in tune with Diablo 2. So again, if that was something that turned you off from PoE or Diablo 3, I think that you might actually enjoy the slower based combat. One major con though that I have noticed, again, this is an early experience so far, so I don't really want to blanket paint all of the Diablo 4 boss encounters like what we experienced in the early Diablo 4 beta, but they feel like they're just attack sponges, at least currently. Nothing really too crazy or dynamic in terms of the boss fight. You kind of sit there swinging away and then sort of dodging an animation and then going back to repeating it.
So what he's saying is that a lot of the bosses have so much health, you're kind of just sitting there, you don't die, you're just swinging away at a health pool. It's the worst experience you can have in an action RPG. But I'll also add on top of this that his version that he played that he's talking about right now was capped at level 25. I believe that the level cap is 100 in the video game. So this is definitely not end game content. This is early game stuff. And most action RPGs, I mean, if you've ever played, you go from normal to nightmare in Diablo 2, it's a nightmare. The health pools. So I can get that, but I don't think that's reflective of the experience, the end game experience. Dude, the MMO style content is so boring. It's so boring. Not taking away anything from anyone who likes MMOs. Dude, the content is so boring. We like arcadey, quick, fun, smash them up. That style gameplay.
So I'd like to move on to character progression and itemization. Again, big asterisks here. This beta was restricted to character level 25. So you're about character level 50 once you finish the campaign, and then you can progress all the way to 100 once you've worked your way through the different world tiers and your Paragon board. So this is obviously a very limited and narrow scope, but I don't feel like it was that horrible. The drop rates seemed sort of similar in tune to Diablo 2, so I wasn't dropping a ton of legendary items. Like you would get a couple magic items, a couple rare items, and then the odd legendary here or there. It wasn't just legendaries dropping from the sky. So again, that is pretty good.
I can't wait to try and not create the most optimal, efficient builds. I'm super looking forward to finding these like odd legendaries, odd items, and creating these like one-off builds that may not be the best, but are like unique. And how do I make this work for this particular item or this build?
Now, in terms of trading, this is definitely a big discussion.
Here we go.
Diablo 2 community, at least, that really
here we
this
go.
To Diablo 4. There is a form of restricted trading, but it's a work in progress. They're not really set on anything specifically yet, but there is some restrictions in terms of power level for items, for example, that you can and cannot trade. So currently you can trade magic and rare items, but you can't trade legendary or ancestral legendary items or unique items.
D2JSP, right? It's the place to trade for Diablo content. They are absolutely dropping undies right now when it comes to Diablo 4. You can trade items freely in Diablo 2. You cannot do it in Diablo 3, but there will be a huge service market, black market, or for Diablo 4. The things like rushing, running players through high level content, killing it for them so they can get itemization. There will always be a black market on D2JSP. So in some element, there's like a passive currency involved. It's the nature of the beast.
Completely unlimited free market like Path of Exile or Diablo 2, but it's definitely not the other polar extreme of Diablo 3. And again, that's a work in progress. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that, but it doesn't mean that if you drop a crazy, wicked legendary item and it's maybe not for your character that you're just stuck with it sitting in your stash, you can extract that legendary affix and trade it later. So it's kind of a compromise between both of them. Like in an ideal world, I would like free, completely unrestricted trading, but it looks like there will be some...
Wait, Dobransky wants free, unlimited trading. Man, I deeply disagree with that. I deeply disagree with free, unlimited trading. It's like he said at the start of this, it's a hot topic. It's a hot debate. I've got a pretty strong opinion about it. I don't like trading in action RPGs because it just short circuits the game experience. You know, you can get the best gear in 2 weeks. Millions of players farming like, 120, 150 legendaries. And it's all just there, available cheap. It just ruins the fun. Honestly, I wouldn't have picked it. I wouldn't have picked it for Dobransky. I would have thought that he had a very similar opinion to mine.
Personally, it isn't. Now,
He's
in terms
right.
of character
100%
customization,
right.
it's pretty cool. You can pretty much change everything from tattoos to eye color to hairstyle, gender, whatever you want to, you can customize. But to be fair, you can't really notice those customizations. At least I don't think you can in game, unless like maybe you're...
With the customization, once you've got all your armor on, it's like, yeah, your character's completely covered.
Myself and a couple other Diablo content creators were given the opportunity to have one-on-one meetings with Joe Shelley and Rod Ferguson and ask numerous burning questions that we had about the development of Diablo 4. So everything from trading to seasonal themes, length and duration, drop rates, crafting, dealing with bots, rune words, etc. We had the opportunity to ask Joe and Rod Ferguson directly. The next major question that I had was world boss events, or the actual frequency of open world events in Diablo 4. How often are they going to happen? Will the mechanics change? Are they going to be upgraded? Because one of the common criticisms that I noticed during the endgame beta phase from players was that they felt like the world boss events were a little bit lackluster, like the dynamic mechanics.
Dude, Diablo 4, like world events, like MMO style world events. I know that there are more people that like this stuff than people that do not, but it's just not Diablo. It's just not the style of the game. It's just not what it's about. Like these brute world, open event, big battle bosses. Man, I couldn't think of anything worse. I want to grind all the content and get the best loot. Don't want to be sitting there slogging away with 20 other people hitting some boss so we can get like the one legendary item that he drops, and there's like a 10% chance that he drops it. I can't think of anything worse than that.
Weren't really there. They just felt kind of slow. And the response that I got in general to that feedback was they're an evolving process, so they're not really set in stone. They're taking feedback and will adjust accordingly. But in terms of the actual world events, small events will happen more frequently, where larger events and world boss events will happen less frequently, trying to find that balance between them being exciting every time that they happen and not being overdone. So really good comparison in my opinion. And the final question that I had was, what is Diablo 4 going to do to prevent bots? Is there going to be strategic ban waves? Is there going to be a prevention strategy put in place? Essentially, they wanted to make sure that the game had competitive mechanics, but they were designed to not encourage botting. So an example from Diablo 3 is just unlimited power growth from Paragon boards that incentivizes botting. An example from Diablo 2 is completely unrestricted trading, and very rare items incentivize people to run bots to trade items to make value. The two sort of combat approaches to those two problems is having somewhat restricted trading in Diablo 4, as well as having a limited amount of power that you can gain from a Paragon board. So there's no incentive to run bots to farm very rare items because you
Brensky, guys, subscribe to him. Well, this came out a long time ago in August, but there is a little bit of information, and that is the Battle Pass. Hey, everyone. Keegan Clark, director of product for Diablo 4, here to talk about the approach of blah, 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 blah. Here we go. This is all we need to know. This is it. This is all we needed to know. The Battle Pass has free tiers and premium tiers. Throughout the Battle Pass, players can earn a variety of rewards for free just by playing. At any point during the season, players can purchase the premium pass to unlock the ability to earn premium reward tiers containing seasonal themed cosmetics and premium currency, I assume, to buy more cosmetics. The Battle Pass awards cosmetics like the shop. These do not affect gameplay. Experience, movement speed affect gameplay. Is there an experience bonus or movement speed with the Battle Pass? Additionally, certain cosmetic types are exclusive to the Battle Pass. Yep. The Battle Pass awards premium currency. Players can spend the currency for more cosmetics. Okay, here we go. The Battle Pass awards free seasonal boosts. Boosts accelerate players' progress for the duration of the season. For example, a season boost might accelerate experience and to make leveling multiple characters within a season faster. Here's how I interpret this wonderfully written sentence. At the end levels of the free season pass, you will get an experience boost. So let's say the season pass is 1 to 50, hypothetically, 1 to 50. Maybe at level 50, then on, you get a 25% experience boost. At level 50, that's unlocked on the free pass. If you pay for it, though, you just automatically get the experience boost. So, yeah, straight away, this is an XP. An experience boost is, in my opinion, confirmed. Hold up. Players can purchase tiers, but they won't speed up getting season boosts. Players can't upgrade season boosts just by purchasing tiers. No mention of movement speeds on mounts, right? With cosmetics. So if I get a certain paid for cosmetic, do I get 20% more movement speed moving through the maps? That's another biggie too. It functions the same way as an experience boost because it's more efficient to run the content. Let's talk about the open beta. So a lot of you are probably curious about how long the open beta is going to go for and when it's going to come out. We do not know when the open beta is going to come out. If you're business minded, you would be like, oh, they're going to release it through Christmas time, right? When people have expendable income to pre-order the game. Actually, you know when they're going to announce the open beta release date? On the 15th. There is a developer Q&A on the 15th. That's the US date, and it'll be just in time for Christmas. They're too clever. How do they do it? So we know how long the open beta is going to go for because of this over here. Right, the terms and conditions. Actual platform availability is subject to internet connection. If it sucks, blah, blah, blah. Minimum open beta duration is 2 days. Minimum 2 days of open beta. Here's the biggie, guys. For the open beta, this is how long it's going to go for. Up to 4 days based on estimated access. 4 days, guys. Open beta, minimum of 2, up to 4 days. The diff is that in Overwatch, XP doesn't really matter. And in action RPG, it does. 100%, dude. 100%. Yeah. Experience has no value to Overwatch. I mean, they don't even change the banners now. The borders. Already blindly bought the Ultimate Edition? You dirty dog. All right, guys. So this is a breakdown of the Diablo 4 cinematic release trailer. I'm going to share some extra details about it that you may have missed. So this symbolism that you'll see, it's shown up in a lot of Diablo promotional content. It's heavily tied to the storyline in the game. So we are located in hell right now. When I first watched this trailer, I was like, who is that? I can confirm that it is an extremely important character in the game. And the reason why I know this is because the voice actor behind this character, it's a bit like Mike Mercer. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mike Mercer. He's Cassidy in Overwatch. The dude's in like every video game ever. He's in every anime. He's in everything. This voice actor is in a lot of video games, and they wouldn't pay a important voice actor to be in the trailer once, and that's it. Okay, see this shot right here? You can see that there's a human underneath the helmet. All angels in Diablo are presented without a face. It's always blacked out through everything. Their concept art in the video game, they never show an actual face themselves. So at this point, everyone knows this is Inarius. You can tell by the wings, you can tell by the armor, and the voice is a little bit different too. Now, there is a scene that we cannot explain. It appears that there are two giants right here and right here. We don't know if that's just like, you know, a weird, it just kind of looks like they are giants. Maybe it's like a combination of these Celtic signs, but it looks like there's some giants behind it.
May we fight true in his holy name.
So in the scene, we have all of the fallen running over the bridge. You might have seen that I pointed this out. There are these huge hands. And the lore behind it is there are these giant creatures that are covered in bondage and they're chained up. Hell uses these massive, massive creatures, quite literally skin these giant beasts to create the floor texture in hell. So all this stuff is these beasts' skin. So fallen coming in.
Blessed be the light.
So there's a intentional choice of scene there where you see Lilith turn her back on Inarius. It's very, very subtle, but it is important. Here's how it works in the Diablo lore. Lilith is the daughter of Mephisto. Mephisto is the lord of hatred. Mephisto trapped Inarius and tortured him over and over and over and over and over again. What happened was Inarius fell in love with Lilith, the daughter of Mephisto. It wasn't exactly mutual. Lilith was kind of like, in the lore, she's like, oh, I can tell that Inarius is smitten by me. I could see it in his eyes. And then they created the Nephilim, which are the characters that we play in Diablo. Most likely this cinematic, most likely this is a setup plot. Inarius has been released from being tortured. Inarius wants the Nephilim to be destroyed. So technically, he is an antagonist in the world of Diablo. He does not like Nephilim. He does not like us while we're playing. There is this instinct to believe that Inarius is the good guy in the story, coming down to hell and combating it, where we might see that it's actually the opposite. We might see that Lilith is, in fact, the protagonist. So that's the theory. That's the ongoing theory right now with how this is going to work out. Anyway, guys, man, what an awesome session. Thank you so much for watching the Diablo show. Yeah!